The room went silent. My brother Marcus stood there, wine glass frozen halfway to his mouth, his face shifting through confusion, disbelief, recognition. The gallery owner, Catherine Whitmore, owner of Whitmore Contemporary in Soho, smiled at me warmly, completely unaware she'd just detonated a bomb in my family's carefully maintained hierarchy. "I'm sorry to interrupt dinner," Catherine continued, her voice carrying that effortless authority of old money and older art connections. "But your assistant said you'd be here. The appraisal came back on the Rothko number 14. $4.2 million. We need to update the insurance immediately." My mother's fork clattered against her plate. "Rothko?" Marcus said, his voice thin. "Like Mark Rothko?" Catherine finally noticed the tension, her eyes moving between us. "Yes. Elena has quite the collection. The Rothko, the Basquiat, those two Hockneys." She stopped, reading the room. "I'm interrupting a family moment." "No," I said quietly, meeting my brother's eyes. "You're not interrupting anything that wasn't already broken." The emotional accounting started long before tonight. I kept track even when I told myself I shouldn't. Item number 1, the Yale acceptance. Cost, self-worth never fully recovered. I got into Yale's MFA program. Full scholarship. Marcus got into NYU's gallery management certificate program. Parents threw him a party. My acceptance letter sat on the kitchen counter for 3 days before Mom said, "That's nice, honey. Very artistic." Marcus's certificate program. $40,000 in family loans forgiven. My scholarship. At least it's free since you can't afford it otherwise. Item number 2. First major sale. Cost. Validation permanently withheld. I sold my first painting for $12,000 at a group show. Anonymous buyer. I was 26. I called home excited. "Dad, that's good. Marcus just got promoted to junior associate at the gallery." Real career trajectory. Marcus's promotion came with a $45,000 salary. My painting sale was dismissed as luck and one time. I never told them I was the anonymous buyer of my own work. I needed one piece that no one could diminish. Item number 3. Every family dinner 8 years. Cost, presence, self-respect, dignity. Still painting. Year 1. Making rent with your art yet? Year 3. When are you getting a real job? Year 5. Marcus sold 3 pieces this month. How many did you sell? Year 7. The answer was always the same from me. Vague, non-committal, changing the subject. The truth was different. I'd sold 47 pieces in 8 years. Total value, $890,000. I bought under my mother's maiden name, Elena Cordova, and sold through private dealers who valued discretion. The art world has always understood that some collectors prefer shadows. Item number 4. The garage studio. Cost, respect, familial acknowledgement. Marcus, she's still painting in the garage like a teenager. He said this at Thanksgiving. Easter. 4th of July. Christmas Eve last year. The garage was climate-controlled, 800 square feet. Northern light through custom skylights, $40,000 in renovations I paid for in cash. But calling it a garage let him diminish it. Let them all dismiss it. At least she has a hobby, Mom would say, like I was collecting stamps. Item number 5. Tonight's introduction. Cost, the breaking point. This is my sister. She paints. Not, this is Elena, she's an artist. Not even she does art. Just, she paints. Like it was something I did with my hands to pass time between waiting tables. The job they assumed I still had despite quitting 6 years ago. The ghost ledger totaled more than money. It was a spreadsheet of moments where I was erased, reduced, made smaller so Marcus could feel larger. Cost, believing I needed their validation to matter. Status, finally, permanently closed. There's a specific moment when you decide to stop explaining yourself. For me, it happened in a coffee shop in Soho, March 2019. I was meeting a dealer. Andreas Müller, Swiss, impeccable reputation, specialized in emerging contemporary artists. He'd seen my work at a group show, wanted to discuss representation. I arrived early. Sat near the window. Watched people pass. The art world people in their studied casual elegance, the finance people in their pressed certainty, the artists in their deliberate disorder. My phone buzzed. Family group chat. Marcus, closed a deal on a Koons sculpture today. $340,000. Client flew in from Dubai. Mom, so proud. Dad, that's our Marcus. Always knew you'd make it in the art world. I stared at that message. Make it in the art world. Marcus didn't make art. He sold it. He brokered transactions between wealth and object. Important work, certainly. But he wasn't an artist. He was a salesman in a gallery. Yet he'd made it, and I was still painting in the garage. Andreas arrived. We talked for 2 hours. He offered representation. Asked about my goals. I want to make work that matters, I said. I want to collect pieces that speak to me. I want to build something real. Why does it need to be real? He asked, genuinely curious. I thought about Marcus's Koons sale. Thought about my family's celebration. Thought about the painting in my garage. A 6 by 8 foot canvas exploring generational silence through layers of translucent grays that I'd been working on for 4 months. Because, I said, if I'm going to be dismissed anyway, I might as well be dismissed for something true. Andreas smiled. You understand something your family doesn't. The art world has 2 economies. The economy of transaction and the economy of meaning. Your brother lives in the first. You live in the second. Neither is better. But only one survives rejection. I signed with him that day. The painting I'd been working on, Inheritance Number 4, sold 2 years later for $180,000 to a museum in Oslo. The buyer specifically requested it remain titled Inheritance Number 4. No explanation provided. I never told my family it sold. What would be the point? They'd find a way to make it smaller. Gambler's fallacy in reverse. I'd stopped feeding the slot machine of family approval, convinced the jackpot of their respect was mathematically impossible. The house always wins when the game is rigged. Catherine was still standing there, her tailored black suit and platinum bob catching the dining room chandelier light, clearly trying to understand what she'd walked into. Marcus found his voice. You own a Rothko? I own 3 paintings, I said calmly. The Rothko is one. There's also a Basquiat from 1983 and a Hockney pool painting. Plus 2 Hockneys from his portrait series. My father's face had gone from confused to calculating. You bought, how much are we talking? The collection appraised at $4.2 million last month, Catherine said, professional reflex kicking in before she caught herself. I really should let Elena share this. No, I said. Please. Continue. They should hear it from someone they'd actually believe. Catherine's eyes sharpened. He understood now. The Rothko, number 14 from 1960, is the crown piece. $4.2 million is actually conservative. At auction, possibly $5.8 million. The Basquiat, depending on market conditions, $2.10 to $2.40 million. The Hockneys collectively $1.8 million. Marcus sat down without meaning to, his chair scraping loud against the hardwood. That's. Mom stopped. $8 million. Give or take, I said. Depending on the market. Art isn't static value. How? Dad demanded. How do you have 8 million in paintings? I don't have 8 million, I corrected. I have paintings currently valued at approximately that amount. I bought them over 8 years using income from my own work, plus investment returns, plus strategic acquisitions when certain artists were undervalued. The words felt clinical. Detached. Like I was discussing someone else's life. Catherine was putting pieces together, her expression shifting to something like respect. The paintings you sold through Mueller Gallery, those were yours? Your Cordova? I nodded. Your Inheritance series sold for $890,000 total. The Museum of Modern Art has 2 pieces. The Tate has 1. Catherine laughed, surprised and delighted. Marcus, you never mentioned your sister was Cordova. I didn't know, Marcus said, his voice hollow. How could you not know? Catherine asked, genuinely confused. Her work has been in Art Forum 3 times. The Times did a profile. She stopped, reading his expression. You never looked. The silence stretched like taffy, thin and breaking. My sister-in-law Jessica, who'd been quiet until now, spoke carefully. You've been selling art this whole time? Well, we thought you were. Waitressing. I supplied. I quit the restaurant 6 years ago. I paint full-time. I have studio space in Brooklyn. The converted warehouse on Kent Avenue, not a garage. I live off my art sales and collection management. Marcus's jaw tightened. That physical tell he'd had since childhood when reality contradicted his narrative. You let us think you were struggling. I never said I was struggling, I replied quietly. You assumed it. I stopped correcting you around year 3 when I realized you needed to believe it. That's not fair, Mom started. What's not fair, I interrupted, is 8 years of still painting. 8 years of introducing me as your daughter who does art, while introducing Marcus as your son, who works in the art world. What's not fair is celebrating his gallery sales while never once asking about mine. Catherine cleared her throat. I should go. Elena, call me tomorrow about the insurance. And Marcus, she paused, choosing words carefully. Your contract renewal is up for discussion next week. Let's talk then. She left, her heels clicking against the floor, the front door closing with a soft, expensive sound. Marcus turned to me, something desperate in his eyes. You're going to ruin this for me, aren't you? Catherine owns my gallery. She controls my career. I'm not doing anything to you, I said. I simply exist at a level you didn't know about. If that creates problems for you, that's between you and your choices. What's that supposed to mean? I stood, collecting my coat from the back of my chair. It means you spent 8 years positioning yourself as the art world expert in this family. The one who made it. The one who understood value and culture and market dynamics. And you never once recognized that your sister, the one painting in her garage, was actually a collected artist with museum representation and a multimillion-dollar collection. That's not. Catherine is one of the most connected dealers in New York, I continued, my voice steady. She manages my collection. She's helped me acquire pieces from private sales and estate liquidations. We have dinner monthly to discuss market trends and emerging artists. He knows exactly who I am. And now she knows you don't. The implication hung there, heavy and unavoidable. If Marcus had been so oblivious about his own sister, someone he claimed to understand, someone he worked in the same field as, what else was he missing? What other opportunities had he overlooked? What other relationships had he mismanaged through sheer assumption? Dad found words first. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at him, really looked, taking in the genuine confusion on his face. He actually didn't understand. I tried, I said. Year 1, I told you about my first gallery show. You said, that's nice, honey, and changed the subject to Marcus's new job. Year 2, I mentioned selling a piece. You asked if it covered my rent yet. Year 3, I said I was working with a dealer. You asked when I'd get health insurance. At some point I realized you didn't want to know. You wanted the story you'd already written. Week 1, the contract review. Catherine Whitmore had built her gallery on 2 principles: impeccable taste and absolute discretion. Marcus's contract renewal wasn't explicitly cancelled. It was postponed pending internal review. Gallery associates talk. By week's end, everyone in Marcus's circle knew some version of the story. He'd dismissed his sister as a hobbyist while she was actually a serious collector and represented artist. The narrative fractured his credibility. Week 2, the research. Catherine did what any good dealer does. Research. She pulled catalogs from my exhibitions. Read the art forum profiles. Contacted Andreas Mueller. Andreas's response, which he later shared with me: Elena Cordova is one of the most thoughtful collectors under 40. Her eye for undervalued contemporary work is exceptional. She bought Njideka, a Keneally Crosby piece, in 2017 for $45,000. It's worth $380,000 now. She doesn't collect for status. She collects for connection. Catherine's internal memo to her staff mentioned re-evaluating our associates' judgment and market awareness. Week 3, the invitation. Catherine invited me to lunch at the Modern. Linen napkins, museum views, quiet wealth. I need to ask you something directly, she said over appetizers. Did you know Marcus worked for me when you started building your collection? Yes, I said. I knew for 6 years. And you never mentioned it? Never leveraged that connection. What would I leverage? I asked. Marcus didn't take me seriously. Why would introducing myself as his sister help? I built relationships on my own work and my own judgment. My last name is my mother's maiden name professionally for a reason. She nodded slowly. Your brother has been with my gallery for 4 years. In that time he's sold pieces, managed clients, attended fairs. But he's never brought me an emerging artist. Never identified an undervalued work. Never demonstrated the kind of market instinct you showed buying that a Keneally Crosby piece. I stayed quiet. I'm not renewing his contract, Catherine said. Not because of family drama. Because this situation revealed a fundamental gap in his capabilities. An art dealer who can't recognize an E. Cordova piece when his sister signs her work, E. Cordova using their mother's maiden name, lacks the attention to detail my gallery requires. Week 4 the offer. I'd like to exhibit 3 pieces from your collection, Catherine said. The Rothko, the Basquiat and one Hockney. A show exploring private collections and the collectors behind them. Your story, not the family drama but your journey as a collector and artist, is compelling. I considered it. What about Marcus? What about him? He'll see it as retaliation. Let him, Catherine said simply. The art world is small. Reputation is everything. He damaged his own by demonstrating poor judgment. You didn't do that to him. Reality did. Week 5. The exhibition announcement. Whitmore Contemporary announced, Private Visions, the E. Cordova collection, opening in March. 3 major pieces, catalog essay by a prominent critic, expected attendance from major collectors and museum curators. Marcus called me once. I didn't answer. He texted, "You're destroying my career." I replied, "I'm exhibiting my collection. Your career is your responsibility." Week 6. The family meeting. Mom called. Asked me to come to dinner. We need to talk about this situation. I went, curious what story they'd constructed. Dad spoke first. "We think you should talk to Catherine. Explain that Marcus didn't know because you kept it secret. Help him get his job back." "No," I said. "He's your brother," Mom said. "He's a 34-year-old man who spent 8 years mocking my career while working in the same field, never once doing the most basic research into his own sister's work. Catherine didn't fire him because of me. She fired him because that level of obliviousness is professionally disqualifying." "You could fix this," Dad insisted. "I could," I agreed. "But I won't. Marcus needs to learn that dismissing people has consequences. You all do." I stood to leave. "Where does this leave us?" Mom asked, and for the first time she sounded uncertain. "Where it's been for 8 years, I said. "You have the son who worked in galleries. I have my work, my collection and my reputation. The difference is now you know they're not the same size." 6 months later, I stood in Whitmore Contemporary for my collection exhibition opening. The Rothko glowed on the wall, those deep reds and oranges creating the emotional resonance Rothko called basic human emotions: tragedy, ecstasy, doom. Catherine approached with a couple museum curators from San Francisco. "Ms. Cordova, they're interested in acquiring one of your inheritance pieces for their permanent collection." We talked for 20 minutes. Scholarly discussion about recurring themes in my work, the use of translucent layers to explore inherited silence, the formal qualities of restricted palette. My phone buzzed. "Marcus, congratulations on the show. I saw the reviews." I didn't respond. Another text, "I got a job at a gallery in Miami. Fresh start." Good for him, I thought. Genuinely. A third text, "I'm sorry I never looked. I should have seen you." I put the phone away. Maybe in a year we'd talk. Maybe 5 years. Maybe never. The boundary was mine to set, and for the first time in 8 years I felt no guilt about setting it. The museum curators wanted Inheritance Number 7. A piece about the space between what families see and what they choose not to see. Ironic. Sale price, $240,000. That night I went back to my studio. The real studio, the 2,000 square foot space with 14-foot ceilings and north-facing skylights, not the garage Marcus had imagined for 8 years. I started a new painting. Large canvas, 8 by 10 feet. Working title, The Ghost Ledger. It would explore invisible costs. Emotional accounting. The price of being unseen in plain sight. I worked until 3 a.m. layers of paint building slowly, methodically, each one translucent enough to see through to the layers beneath. My phone sat silent on the work table. No family group chat. No still painting questions. No assumptions about garage studios or waitressing or hobbies. Just silence. And space. And work that mattered. The account is closed. The balance is zero. And I am finally painting in my own light.